If you like this video, please subscribe, like, and go to training.mammothinteractive.com where we have tons of more videos just like this. In this lecture, we will learn what is coding. Code tells a computer what actions to take. So you can tell a computer do this, do that by writing code. Code refers to instructions that computers and humans can read. With code, you can write computer programs, known as software, like an application, a game, or a website, and more. Coding refers to writing code. So just like you would write a story in English, you would write a computer algorithm or a computer program with code. Coding is how we can communicate with computers and write a set of instructions for a computer. Coding is also called programming because we build programs on our computer. By learning to write code, you can tell computers what to do or how to behave, and you can create programs. So how do we write code? Code can be written in a coding language, also commonly called a programming language. There are many popular programming languages for different tasks. For example, the C++ coding language is very popular for game development with the Unreal Engine. But there are other coding languages out there too that can be used and are more popular for different tasks. You can also write code with visual scripting. So here, instead of typing out code in a coding language, you build out code visually. This is known as visual scripting or visual programming, and it's done with blueprints. A programming language is a way to write code. Same thing with visual scripting. A coder is someone who writes code, whether it's with a coding language or with visual scripting. A coder is also called a programmer or a developer or a software developer. These are all words for the same person. Software refers to a collection of instructions that tell a computer how to work. A piece of software could be an app, a game, or a website. Hardware is how your computer is built and actually does the work. So if you are a software developer, you're building something with code. If you are a hardware developer, this refers to the actual computer itself, the system, and the system that does the work. So that is an introduction to coding. Join me in the next lecture where we will continue our course. In this lecture, we are going to learn what is game development. Game development refers to building video games. Game development is a type of software development because a game is a type of software if we're referring to a video game. Remember, a piece of software is anything that's built with code that runs on your computer. A video game developer transforms games from an idea to a reality, an actual video game. Their tasks can include coding out the visual elements of the game, as well as features of the game and testing different versions of the game. Some examples of a game developer's tasks would be to build a level in the game. You have to design the level and then build it out with code. Another example is building out a player animation if it's done with code. Another example of a game developer's tasks is building the health system for a game. How does a player lose and gain health? Do they lose health over time, or do they only lose health when they're attacked? Another example is building where loot boxes should be placed around the world. With code, you can automatically randomize where the loot boxes should be placed. Another example is procedurally generating the world. This refers to randomly generating the world with code, doing it automatically. Another example is designing enemies that chase the player. You can build code that represents the enemy and then code the enemy to be an artificial intelligence that will always chase the player. Another example is designing bots that run around the world. You can code out bots, which are imitations of characters that you can then automate to run around the game. Another example of a task is designing non-playable characters that players can interact with. So you can build out characters that stand around or walk around, and then players can talk to them. Another example is handling attack and death. So how you can handle how attacks are done, who attacks who, as well as how does a player die and what happens when they die. Another example is ending a level and starting the next one. If a player finishes a level, then you should show them the next one if there is one. Or if a player dies, you should take them back to the start of the game or the start of the level. Another example is handling game start and game over logic. Again, what should happen when the game begins? What should happen when the game ends? You can code all of that out as a game developer. Another example of a task is enabling a multiplayer game. In a multiplayer game, players have to be able to see each other, they have to communicate with each other if they're attacking each other or if they're chatting. So you have to enable all of that with code. So those are examples of individual tasks that a game developer might be given to do to build a game. More tasks that typically involve a team are developing new ideas for the game design, so what should be added to the game, as well as translating visual ideas into code. If you're working at a company or with a team, you might get the task of building out the world with code. Of course, if you're starting off as a game developer, you'll have to do many of these tasks on your own, but as you build bigger games, you'll get hired with a company or you'll work with a team. Another example of a task is prototyping a game, so building out a quick version of the game to test it out. Another example is iterating the game, so improving on it. Another example is polishing the game. This is typically towards the end of the game development phase. When you're ready to publish the game, you have to polish it up and then send it out. At a company, you'll often collaborate with designers, producers, artists, and quality analysts, so you'll collaborate with other members of your team. Oftentimes, you'll have to monitor the game's stability. Can the game work on mobile? Can the game work on Mac? Another example is reviewing code and recommending improvements. Improvements for making the game faster with code, making the game more secure, making the game more organized in terms of the code. Another example of a task that a game developer might get is to port games from one system to another. Perhaps the game works on an Android phone, but you have to enable it to work on an iPhone. The video game industry is a huge industry. Nearly 227 million people in the United States play video games, and that's just in the United States. This makes game development the leading form of entertainment, larger than music and TV combined, in terms of the amount of money in the industry. There are similar roles to game developers, like a game artist who designs the art in the game. And you'll find when you're starting off in game development, you'll be building games by yourself, so you'll have to take on a lot of these different roles as well. But then as you become more specialized, and if you work with a team, you'll have a more specific role instead of having to build the whole game by yourself. So typically with a game, you'll need the game developer, the game artist, as well as an animator to animate things like attack animations, walking animations, jumping animations. Other roles are the writers of the game, if there is a storyline, as well as an audio engineer for sound effects and music. As well, there's a producer role for managing the team, like the product or project manager. As well, game designers to design the levels and design the game from start to finish. And game testers to test out games and find bugs or issues. So those are similar roles to game developers, and you'll find you'll have to take on all these roles if you're building a game by yourself. So that is game development. Join me in the next lecture where we will continue our course. If you liked this video, then go to training.mammothinteractive.com. We have tons more content on blockchain, web development, machine learning, and much more. We also have a membership for just $19 a month where you can get access to our 372 course bundle and counting.